for coming all the way down here.
You're worth it, Ryan. You're worth it. I learned a long time ago, when you reach out, like, you're like the bat signal. It's like, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go. But what's crazy is every time you reach out to me, I'm in a different state.
Yeah.
Or like traveling on vacation every single time. I don't know, like you just have like spidey senses or something. You're like, oh, Jesse's out of town. Hey, I need something. And I'm like, all right. And that's kind of like how this all started. But thank you for your time and coming down here as well. I mean, we have families where we're regular humans.
Yeah.
We're not just creators.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been working on just getting to know people and working on projects and getting to know their projects, their creative processes, as well as, you know, how can we collaborate, if at all, whether it's with me or maybe I have resources that might be useful for you, because I just want to see people succeed. You know, there was a phase in life where it was just kind of like, be the person you need growing up.
Yeah.
Does that resonate with you?
Well, I would say one thing I've learned over time is that the rising tide raises all boats.
Okay.
So it's like where, like, if someone else wins and I help them, like I won at the same time. And that's, you know, through the 20s, there's a lot of arrogance there, so maybe it wasn't always felt like that.
Yeah.
But then as I've gotten older, it's kind of like, yeah, the more that if I help someone else succeed, then in a sense I succeed. That's the kind of way we
Okay.
elevate each other. So even when it comes to reposting or just hitting like or resharing somebody else's content, it costs you nothing, and and at the same time it's like the easiest thing to do. And so because I used to live in Florida, I went to film school out there, and then also through film festivals I met people in different parts of the world. Yeah. And there's some people across the pond, and they'll simply just them resharing the video that we do. Suddenly it's in Europe, and it's like, wow, we're already cross culture in a sense. And it's film stuff is a networking game.
Yeah.
Like there's times where I wish I was just a writer and I didn't have to rely on 80 people to help me make a movie. Yeah. Or promote it, but
that's just the nature of film. Yeah.
So,
I believe they call it nepotism. You have to know somebody to get in and things like that. Well, that's kind of how it was. Market Star, when I was working there, that's where I met you. Yeah. You had to know somebody to get your foot in the door.
That's how I got it. Yeah, I got it from another friend. Yeah.
Yeah, a friend of mine, his name was Kevin. He was working on the VMware team when it first launched. Kevin Knudsen, actually, was his name.
Yeah, I remember Kevin.
And he was friends of mine. We worked at eBay together, and I got back from the military, and I was looking for a job, and he's like, just apply for this. And I'm like, what? I don't know what any of this is. So he helped me answer the questionnaires to get in, and I had all these interviews, 6 people coming in. I'm like, why am I being interviewed by 6 people? That's how I got in, and that's where we met, and that was in 2010.
Yeah. No, so a story that you might not remember.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So a long time ago, working through Mark Star, they were the whoever was over said teams or whatever, right? Yeah. They were having like a golf day kind of thing. It's gonna be out in sunset or some shit like that. Yeah. I can't remember what it was. But anyways, I was running late. And I was on 1900 going to Midland. And I was behind this car that was slow as shit. And I was up that car's ass the entire time. And that car ended up going straight to the golf course, and all of a sudden I was like, fuck. I was like, the person in front of me is going to this thing. And you know who it was? It was you. I was behind. And then I also at the same time I was like, man, it's like, you ever had that moment where you kind of like, you do something in traffic like you should have done, and next thing you know, you and that person are now in your neighborhood. You don't even drive to your own house. You just like circle the block for a second. So it was like that. So for the first little while, I was like, I kind of assumed that you probably just remembered that as like me being the dickhead who was like up your ass while we were driving down the road. And so the first little bit where like we passed each other in the hallways. Yeah. And then it wasn't until I had a manager, Rich Clark. I remember Rich. You and him are friends. Yeah. We sat close to each other. You guys would be BSing about movies. And just because of my proximity with Rich when we were talking about movies. Yeah, because you sat right in front of him. He started jaw-jacking with me about movies. And then he was like, what do you think? And then we started chatting about movies. Yeah. And then you let me borrow, I think it's called Sinister. Sinister, yeah. Oh, I love that. Ethan Hawke, yes. And I was sitting in, I like movies, like, if a movie can make you laugh, then you should also appreciate when it can make you cry and also when it makes you scared.
Yeah.
And I popped it in. I was sitting at, I had a moment in my life of transition where I was living back at my dad's house.
Yeah.
I was sitting in this room by myself, and the trailer was working this way because the DVD had still some trailers before it got to the movie. And I remember thinking, like, I think I'm going to shut a couple doors right here. Like, I had the door open in the back. I was like, this is getting fucking scary. And anyways, he let me borrow the movie. Yeah. And then just interchangeably somehow, like, we've still just kind of continued to bump into each other.
Yeah. Especially the last 2 years.
Yeah, and then we, like, bumped into each other at the Blue October concert. We bumped into each other here. So that's, but you probably don't remember me as that person behind you in that car, but I always remember. It was one of those things where but then we ended up at the same location, like miles down the road, and I was like, fuck. I was like, this guy,
motherfucker.
Because you never know who pops out of the car. They might move and be like, oh, you up my head, one fight. But I don't know if you noticed. I just was going, but we were both running late. Yeah. But I was more urgent about it. Anyways, so then for a couple of years, I was like, I think that's probably.
I don't know this guy.
I don't think that's probably the reason why he doesn't want to talk to me in the hallway.
So this is going to be strange. That was June 21st of 2012.
I'm glad you remember that.
I'll never forget that day. Actually, my son's mom and I, we met and hung out the night prior, and the reason why I was driving so slow is because I didn't sleep. And so I stayed at her house, and we were just as friends. We both worked at the Outlaw Bar over here in Ogden. I was a bar back and security, and she was doing bartending. And it was like 2 weeks prior to that, before we hung out. And I asked her to come hang out. I invited the entire crew after work to come to my house to just have drinks and play games, Cards Against Humanity, and things like that. And she was like, no, I don't want to. But then she followed me home. I'm like, that's kind of weird. I thought you were coming to hang out. She's like, no, I live across the street from you. I was going through a breakup, and we were friends on Facebook, and she's like, well, why don't you stop by and just, like, say hi for a minute, you know? And so that was June 20th, because June 21st is summer solstice, and that's why I'll never forget it. So I stayed up all night, so our relationship started that morning, because I stayed up till 7 in the morning and drove straight there, like, trying to, like, stay awake, because we stayed up talking for, like, 9 hours. You know, so that's funny. I'm a date person. I can remember dates really well. So that's funny. No, I didn't know that I was that guy in front of you, which is funny because my girlfriend now would even say, she's like, "You're the slowest driver," and I'm like, "I am a careful driver, and I've never caused an accident." Okay.
Well, when we were in Wendover, I think it was Wendover or something recently when we were shooting, or maybe it was when we were in Hellbrew for the film festival, and I did observe the driving just a little bit, and then I noticed it was particularly slow for some people's taste. And then I remembered, I was like, why is he driving? Ah, that's right. I was like, I remember.
Jesse's gonna be late because he drives really slow. It's just what he does. So it's because I got 3 speeding tickets in a month when I was 18, and I'm like, I'm not driving fast. Like, that's so funny. It makes me so laugh. But what's interesting is you bring up Sinister, and specifically because I didn't know that you were in film. I didn't know that you made movies or went to film school prior to Market Star, because you were working for a tech company. I was working for one as well on different teams on the same floor. So we'd always run into each other, break room, elevators, things like that. You're always been pretty reserved and, you know, well kept, I'd say.
Until somebody gets to know.
Yes, and then you can't, you know, and then you have a lot to say, and the sarcasm comes out, have a drink, and I'm like, I actually really like this guy. But so in college for me, I would take night classes to get away from my family. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's just, you know, I was working full-time at Market Star. I was going to the gym during the day. And I needed to go to school to make the extra money from the GI Bill from that. So like, going to school was a second job for me. And so I was very selective, and I took all the film courses in the evening. And so I went and I learned about hue and color and tone and Zack Snyder's way of directing and producing film. And that's when it really like dawned on me, and it clicked, because that's what happened in the shift between my left and the right hemisphere of my brain. Was just like, hold on. Wait, what? And it was Pan's Labyrinth. So that was...
It's like 2008, 2009, something like that?
It was a while back, and that was the first movie that I watched that was in Spanish, but it's fully subtitled that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
What's the guy's name? He's got a weird name, the director.
Guillermo del Toro?
Yes.
Yeah.
Del Toro. And that was the first film that we watched, and it, like, she broke it apart. The professor did was just like, look at how they're telling a story, but they're talking about trauma and child abuse and neglect and power and greed, and I'm like, okay, I can't unsee this.
Yeah.
And then we watched a film by I believe it was Alfred Hitchcock, all black and white.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, let's go back here, and this is where film started. And so since then, I started paying more attention to specific. Well, who's my director? Who's my favorite director?
Yeah.
Who's my favorite producer? What's the difference between the two? Without going to film school, I got an undergrad in film without knowing it because I took all of the classes, so I could go and watch movies. But then, like, learning about it, I got an A. Never thought anything of it, right? So, horror movies is what got me. And it's not because my fascination with, like, the horror suspense, but it's how do you create a net new feeling for somebody?
Yeah.
And I became obsessed with it. Right?
Yeah.
So for you, like, what was it specifically about horror movies?
It's a good question. It's a really good question. I don't know. So the first series of films that I've made were not horror films.
Okay.
And I would even say that it's only really the last two that I made, and they're really just horror comedy because they're not really they're not really out to scare in a sense. And so, like, my feature film is about a marriage.
Yeah.
I guess it's its own horror thing.
What's it called?
Married and Loving It.
Married and Loving It,
Yeah.
okay.
But I do remember being when I was in like the 6th grade. I was fascinated with Psycho, which is directed by Alfred Hitchcock.
Yes.
I was so
Psycho.
fascinated by the film and that plus the sequels, and I thought for sure I was going to write Psycho 5. When I was like in 6th grade, I'm gonna write Psycho 5. I'm gonna pitch it to the studio, and we're gonna make that like Norman Bates' son was gonna be something like that kind of thing. But I don't know if it was necessarily like it wasn't necessarily a need to scare an audience or anything like that or people, but I just do have an affliction for monster movies.
Yeah.
I do remember doing like when I saw Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula at a really young age.
That was a good
one. I think that there's something fun about and then Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, it has Robert De Niro, started by Kenneth Branagh. Like those kind of stories, just obviously they stand almost the test of time. They're now almost 150 years old.
Like the original movies of new concepts.
Yeah, but then somewhere there's that human element to a degree. Like that's what horror is. Like you're talking about Pan's Labyrinth, and it's like it's not just a story of a girl who meets these monsters. There's also like the Nazis who are There's also like I think it's really interesting when you have that where like a Hereditary kind of thing where the real story is this mom and her broken relationship with these kids.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's this really weird other thing going
this
on. This
powerful masculine energy that she feels this codependency to, and so
and it has like that plot and then the subplot.
Yeah.
And one is mythical and one is just like a normal day-to-day emotion that you kind of have.
But it's showing the imagination of a child of what they're seeing with the fairies and the gnomes, right? Like it really just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I think with horror films, what I like is it's that idea, right? Is how do you create curiosity for a viewer or an audience? And this is where found footage took off, right? The Blair Witch Project, when it came out, was such a hit. I think it was 99. 98, 99 is when Blair Witch Project came out. In fact, it was just 4 people. I think it was 4 people in a handicap. Went and did that. The way that it was filmed was so good because there's no actual monster. It's just fear itself was the monster. Right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, you can take something as simple as a feeling and turn that into something. And if they can do it, what's next? Well, we have 2010. What happened? Paranormal Activity. You have a writer, the director, found footage. One guy, 2 actors in his house does it on a $3,500 budget, which was just the camera. And like
it's a lot to camera too. But I liken it to the idea like so I have 2 cats at the house, and lately I've been playing like little laser thingy with them and whatnot. If you ever dipped with a cat long enough, like there's a certain level of like holding it in front of them and kind of like waving, and the way that you move it away from them that entices that kind of like them to jump a little bit into it. Or if you've seen Monsters University,
yes,
okay, like the way that the Billy Crystal character, like he shows them how to do horror, or scare kids, one of them where like it's not just like Mike Wazowski's like just like all raw, but the other one is like solid. Let's do audio and sound and scratches and things like that, and kind of give them the perception. And that's similar to like with Jaws. Jaws has like you don't see the shark so much, but you see that yellow bobby thingy that they already like attached the shark to, and then that's more terrifying than the shark. Yeah. And so those moments,
it's visual.
And those moments leave it up to our imagination.
Exactly.
Like when in Jurassic Park, when there's the ripple in the water. Yeah. That's more terrifying than actually seeing dinosaurs. Yeah. Because the idea of dinosaurs. So it's like staring.
Because you don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah. So like if you go into your dark basement, you're staring into the abyss. Yeah. You're already tricking yourself out because you're thinking of something that's scary that could jump out, and that's more terrifying than it could jump out. So other movies. So when I see a boring horror film, they're the ones that are always really showy with the monster. Yeah. With great horror films, in my opinion. Alien was the monsters somehow shadowed in the background. Look at Signs.
Yeah. Signs was
where
fantastic.
Alien is always in a reflection of a TV or somewhere else. Like it's never quite right in your face. Yeah. And it's unless I get it with Alien 3. Like there's a couple moments where maybe you do need that monster right there.
That was
So. But there are times where like the visual representation of something is more terrifying than the actual something.
I agree.
Because our imagination is cooking and creating what that could be.
Yeah, the stage is set up for the audience to feel some sense of emotion. But what's great is most people fear an emotion that they can't put in a category. Like, is this joy? Is this happiness? Is this greed? Is this envy? Is this fear? Is this sadness? Is this... Am I frightened, right? Out of fear? And you don't know. Yeah. So there's a few other films that stood out to me. The Descent was one of my favorite films. Do you remember that one?
I didn't see that one. Is that the one where the girls get stuck in the cave?
Yeah. Okay. So what was crazy about it was you've got 6 or 7 girls that do a backpacking trip every year. They're getting together, and they always try to make sure that it's a safe location. It's marked off. It's got stars. People know where it's at. There's service, right? So they get out there, they spelunk down into the cave, and then they realize that one of the girls lied, and oh, this is off grid. They get stuck in there, one of them gets injured. There's these creatures down there that, the fact that these creatures exist, imagine humanoids, human beings that grew up in caves and never saw the light of day. They start to morph into this xenomorphic aspect of a bat human that has echolocation that will eat anything, right? And so you're like, oh my god, this could really be a real thing, and that's what I loved about it. Then obviously it's like the hacker slasher trying to get your way out type thing, basic concept of the movie, but it was an original idea, and that's what I loved it. And this is where we started talking, I think, when we were on the set of Frankencock, where it's like, how does somebody come up with a net new idea for a horror movie? I think that's the hardest thing to do, because what is there to fear? Okay, we got ghosts, we got zombies, we've got aliens, we've got monsters, and then I'm like, and I pitched an idea to you, and you're like, okay, this is cool. Because it's so hard to create a new genre of something net new. How do you do something differently? Like, that's what I liked about Frankencock, this film that you did this last year for that film festival, was usually the bad guy's superpower move is one thing that is not filmed or caught on camera in the United States in film, and I didn't realize that unless it's in an X-rated film. So, but you did it in a comical way that is accepted by society, but you never see that in any movies in the film of that specific shot, and so the fact that you were able to capture, and I didn't even realize this or uncover this until last week, by the way, that most people, like, that's one thing that's never in film, but you did it in such a horrific, hilarious way that it got accepted by, I don't know, you're up to how many awards are you now at that film last week?
It's
between nominations and
just recently too, like within 2 days, up to date, we won another award at a film festival in Atlanta, Georgia for best special effects.
Wonderful.
And so, and I said this about Frank Cock is that for for what it is. Like I've been doing movies for 20 years. I've feature films on Amazon Prime, and I did win awards for that. But oddly enough, like the movie with the monster cock in it is my most award-winning film. And I don't know. I didn't feel like I was making like Married and Loving It for other people. I thought I was making it for myself. But when I really swung for the fences on this like horror comedy monster cock film. Yeah. Like we really are like it's like editing, audience award, special effects, things like that, and it is interesting to see like just how when I made it kind of for myself in a sense. I don't know why, I just think it's funny like that, but it's come out to be one of the more rewarding projects that I've put together. Yet so obscure. Same time.
It is obscure. Okay, so tell us a little bit about the idea. Yeah. We're going to talk about Frankencock. So this is a film that Ryan did last year, and in fact, you reached out to me about this. Let's backpedal a little bit into the next subject of Frankencock. You reached out to me again while I was traveling. I was in Florida. Running around with some musicians out there for some photo video. And it was the first trip I got hired to go, so it's just kind of funny because I bought a one-way ticket to Florida. I don't know if you knew that. I wasn't planning on coming back, and I came back because one, the film stuff, and I'm like, you know what? If this is gonna be a thing, like, maybe I could be a part of this. I don't know. But there was an artist named Echo. So imagine like literally my Echo called me back. Just kind of funny, so I wanted to be back for that, and then I was just still in town. But yeah, let's hear your side of that. Like, how did this all happen?
So when I went to film school back in Florida. In about 2010, I moved back to Utah. At that point, a high school friend of mine, Jason White, I was working at Markstar.
Yeah, I remember Jason.
Yeah, we created a group in Ogden called the New Ogden Center.
Okay.
And the idea around the group is that it's open for everybody, because again, filmmaking is a network thing. Yeah. And we have to be able to pull our resources. So if you help me on one project, I'll help you on another project. Yeah. There's no like there were some other film groups that were in Ogden, but they kind of always have like this guy was the director and this guy was the writer. And and it's gonna be like that for every project. Well, it's like you have your passion project, and I have my passion project. Why can't, if you help me on yours, I should be able to help you on yours. Yeah. Not just me always be the director.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that.
So
New Ogden.
So we created New Ogden, and through that we've done a lot of productions. We'll touch on it again as we go. But we started doing a film series called The Ancient Evil Things. It was always a horror film. Now Matt Johnson was another friend of mine, and he directed a couple of them. Jason White directed one of them, and it's the Demon Chaser Film Festival in Salt Lake, put on by Brian Higgins, and that was coming up. So I put together. I was like, well, I'm going to direct one now. Yeah, I haven't directed one yet. So I did a movie with a werewolf called Moon's Blood. Okay. Where the werewolf comes out only when a girl is menstruating around him. So there was that.
We can't make this shit up.
And that one was really, we won special effects awards. Sean Gordon, who did the special effects, he built the Wolfman costume. Yeah. A great friend of mine, BJ Wimpy, acted as the Wolfman in the film, and we shot it here in Ogden, and it was a blast. We did, like I said, we did special effects. So another year goes by, and I'm not sure if I want to do the Demon Chaser again. I'm kind of adding some other things, but I've always had this idea, the Frankencock idea. Here's how it came. I'm not the biggest Tim Burton fan. Yeah. I mean, I like the guy, but I don't love the guy. Right. And so. 4 days from now, Beetlejuice comes out.
Oh yeah, it does.
But
on the 6th.
But he recently has been like, oh yeah, Dumbo basically ruined my interest in filmmaking. It's like Dumbo was like the catalyst of me never watching your shit again, dude. Like if you haven't noticed, like Tim Burton's Disney trail has sucked really bad. And it's like, so I was like, I think I was sitting around and I was like, this guy's a hack. There's some other indie filmmakers who really love him. And I was like, I don't know. He had a stop motion film called Frankenweenie.
I remember that.
But they didn't call it Frankenweenie. I was like, there's a thing over here called Frankencock. And as soon as I said it, it hit me. I was like, oh, Frankencock. I was like Frankenstein, dick. It's a monster. And I've held on to that little gem for like 8 years. Whenever the Frankenweenie movie came out, until I had lunch with Brian Higgins, who does the Demon Chaser Film Festival in Salt Lake. He asked me if I was going to do if I was going to do the season with them.
Yeah.
And it was going to be in 3D too. That was the new trick. It was like make it all in 3D, and I really wasn't sure, but somewhere 3D and like the penis like coming towards the camera and doing some other stuff like seemed like a fantastic idea for me. And I was really just in my mind doing like one of these to everybody. I was like,
yeah, you're like, I'm gonna make whatever movie I want to make.
Big dick right in your face, like. Anyway, so then all of a sudden I decided, I was like, fuck, I do think I'm gonna do this. Like, I've been talking about Frankencock for a while. Like, that would be funny. I spoke with Sean Gordon, who did special effects Wolfman. He said he could put it together. He showed up to the meeting. We had to do a coffee meeting. He had drawings of cocks with an eyeball and stitches all over the place. And I was like, we are on the same page.
We're doing this.
Yeah.
We're doing this.
And then he crafted it in 2 weeks. He was still stitching it together while we were like filming, while we were shooting like the stuff that we didn't need to on for. But he was still putting all the pieces on while we were making the movie. And that's kind of how. And then originally the story was going to be like characters like in a police interrogation room. And then so I reached out to you because I was like, I'm looking for a location.
Yeah.
But then we're on a budget, so like the location kind of somehow I just was like, oh fuck, I was shooting in my garage.
Yeah.
But you had still asked, you said, well, hey, location didn't work out, can I still help?
Yeah.
Still come work on it. And I'm like, fuck, I was like, yeah. It's getting this open group and whatnot. And then you showed up and you just had so much to offer, production wise. Not just a plethora of equipment, but also just an energy. An energy to like help. It's hard to make a movie when someone can show up and they can weather the storm of the rain, the cold.
Yeah.
And on our last film shoot, the convex and chocolate.
It's so hot.
It's so hot, but yet somebody can maintain an energy for like, fuck, let's do it, man. That energy is hard because everybody's emotions are kind of going up and down because it's long shooting days and it's getting into the end of the night, and so somebody can maintain a good energy. Yeah, fuck, I ain't gonna work because they're just that yes person. Like, hey, we're gonna go shoot this thing.
Fuck yes,
we're gonna go in a volcano.
Full body.
Let's go. And if anybody would jump on me, I don't know that you knew that it was a cock puppet film.
Nope, I had no idea. I had both films. I had no idea. I didn't read the script. Yeah. No, man, I didn't care. But it's interesting you say that energy because for me it was like I kept running into you in the most random places in different cities, and I'm like, why? And it was always you and your wife. And I ran into both of you. And for the longest time, I couldn't remember Randy's name, but I remember she worked on NetApp, I believe, or something. Or she worked on VMware or whatever. Yeah. I'm like, I don't really remember where, but it was like somewhere. And I'm like, I remember seeing you guys because I was good friends with James Dunlap.
Yeah.
And with Mike Jolly. And Denise Moss. We all went to the gym together and hung out. And so I'd always be over there anyway. And I'm like, I know these guys. Why do I keep running into him? Yeah, Blue October. And this, I'm just like, Ryan?
Yeah.
Like, what? He was like just chilling, sitting back there. And then it was, I was walking downtown here actually, where we're sitting, but this table was sitting this way. Yeah. And I came in to say hi to you, and that was the first time, and that was before Frank. That was probably a month before. And I'm like, I've been working on this cool idea, and I don't know if it's going to be a book or whatever, but I'm just like, at this point, and like I'll edit this out, but I ate way too many psychedelic mushrooms in 2022, where my brain was just like, bleh. But granted, hey, I can legally have them. I'm part of the ONAC, Native American Church. I can have them for a sacred medicine. I chose it after I broke my leg and I didn't want to take any pain pills. But it just cracked my brain open where I became a yes man. Thank you, Jim Carrey, but also at the same time, like, you have to learn boundaries. Like, I was a yes man to the point where I'm like, fuck, this is taking time away from me, my family, my kids, my sanity. I'm up studying for 36 hours, and I had a breakthrough, and I'm just like, what do I want to do, right? And it's something your wife mentioned after Frankencock was done and whatnot, and because I got really sick the week after. Do you remember that? I didn't go to the festival because I had COVID.
Yeah. Oh, dang. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, dude, I'm so sick. And you guys won like 5 out of 8 awards or something.
We did.
And you're like, what the fuck is going on? And you're like, I made a movie about a giant dick monster
in 3D.
and it takes 5 out of 8 awards.
Yeah.
You're like, I like these odds, and I'm like, and I'm homesick, just like, I don't want to get anyone sick because I don't know. It was just one of those things where I tried working in music, I tried working in photography, I tried doing branding and marketing and all this stuff for market store that I learned, and I'm like, nothing's working.
Yeah.
You know, and so for me, I'm like, how can I be a creator but have creative inspiration from somebody else that's creating something? How can I aid somebody else in creating something until I felt like, fuck it, give me the camera. You know, like, fuck it, like, let me rewrite this line. And it wasn't until New Ogden Cinema, like, I never thought I would be wanting to make movies or help with film. But because at me, I'm just like, I keep running into you. It's the synchronicities, and that's part of what my podcast is about, is it's called the Starseed Academy, Welcome to the Garden, where we're all starseed. We're all from different pieces of the stars and the cosmic dust. You know, it's just one of those weird things. But we all garden each other. We all water each other's garden, right? We're also watering our own, but everybody gives you a little bit of a different perspective. Where I remember sitting down with you at dinner, I think day 1 filming of Convicts and Chocolate, and you and Brandy were sitting there at the table, and dinner was served after the bus scene. And I'm like, do you guys realize that you created a space where you're allowing people to show up and do the role that they want rather than being qualified for it? And you're like, what? I'm like, you have like this little school. It's like, hey, it's a talent show. What talent do you want to learn? And we're going to put you in it, and then we're going to teach you how to do it. And I'm like, fuck, I've never filmed a movie before. But then again, it depends on their perception, because I've done music videos. I've done TikTok lives and all this stuff. So technically, anyone that creates content, they are the director.
Yeah.
So throw this back to Sylvester Stallone. You're the director, you're the writer, you're the actor, you're the screenplay, you choose, and I'm like, all right, if that's the case and that's what Ryan is doing, then how could I not want to show up? And what was cool about this last one, it was Brandy asked me to help with another thing that you guys are doing with Peary's Egyptian Theater. And the Big Lebowski Festival, which is something that you've been doing, and I think you're coming up on something pretty big. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I created the Ogden's Big Lebowski Festival, which is...
I love the Big Lebowski. That's such a good movie. Jeff Bridges, man.
So I'm a big Coen Brothers fan, and when Fargo came out, their movie, my dad was a big fan of that movie, and we watched it a lot. So when their next movie came out, which is Big Lebowski, it's kind of this absurd thing, and I just thought, so I come from a divorce household, so like I could have the pleasure of telling one parent that they'll take me to see a movie, and I can tell the other parent, like, well, I didn't see that one, but I'm interested in seeing it, even though I already did. They just take me again. So my mother hated that movie, but
classic.
Yeah, but I saw it twice in theaters, and so then it kind of found its own cult following along the way.
Yeah,
and
totally.
There was a moment where there were Lebowski festivals popping up on the East Coast of East Coast-ish of the United States, and so I reached out to the people who were putting together Lebowski Fest and was saying, well, hey, would you guys be interested in doing something in like Utah? They didn't see the value in that, and for whatever reasons, nothing against them, but they just didn't see that, and they're aligning with them. So I thought, well, like, this is something that I think that I would love to see, and people around me are saying we want to see it. When the Blu-ray for the Big Lebowski came out, my friends and I got together, and Jason White was one of them, and we dressed like the characters just for the Blu-ray release, just to have a house party.
That's so
dressed
cool.
Like those characters.
Yeah.
We did it. And the whole time we were saying, we should do the Big Lebowski, we should do the Lebowski Fest and all this other stuff. So eventually I ended up on the board of directors for the Egyptian Theater Foundation, which is the Perry's Egyptian in Ogden, Utah. So this year celebrating 100 years.
100 years of film, right?
100 years of film in Utah, but also that theater itself is 100 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so is also the Union Station, which is in our Convicts and Chocolate film as well.
Yes.
Also
100 years.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
So I was on the board of directors for the Egyptian Theater.
Yeah.
And the motion there was to bring a new audience to the theater. That's one thing. It's also for restoration. But I focus more on bringing the new audience, because the theater, somewhere around the 80s, it closed and it was almost going to be demolished, and then the board of directors that I'm on, or that I was on, started, and that's what saved the theater. Now it opens in 1997.
Okay.
Now we're in 2024.
Yeah.
So we're now 30 years after the reopening. So it's going to need restoration.
Yeah.
It's going to, like, the problems are happening in the 70s when the movie came out are now going to happen now as the theater.
Yeah.
They're going to have it now. New seating, which is a project that we just did. But ultimately, but nobody cares if there's not an audience for it. And so that was one of the focuses that I had on the board, was bringing that new audience.
Yeah.
We ran 2 different events. We ran a Full Express event where we had kids coming in, and I love bringing my kids. They love that theater, and it's a memory that they'll have. And maybe there'll be a point in time where they're on that. They're part of an action committee that's helping save that theater. Somewhere in there, though, I was able to convince them to do Lebowski Fest. we wrote grants for it, and we were able to get grant money to do Lebowski Fest. That was actually 11 years ago. We skipped a year because of COVID. So this year we had the 10th Lebowski Fest, Ogden's Big Lebowski Fest happening.
At 100 years celebration for the space and film.
Yes.
That's incredible.
This year, it's on November 9th, and I'm no longer part of that board.
Okay.
But I am still hosting the event.
Yeah.
And now we're running it as a New Ogden Cinema event.
That's incredible. Because now it's under your belt, and we're just using a space.
So what we want to do is take New Ogden Cinema and not just make it, for a long time it's been a networking, filmmaking kind of thing, but now, my other passion is programming films and I love sharing films with people and enjoying them together. So now it's programming Big Lebowski, and hopefully we'll find other venues where we can program films. And I think what we also want to do is we're going to raise that money so that we can fund more filmmaking.
That'd be
on
wonderful.
On our own set, so that we can. There's times I've done big and small projects. Frankencop was everybody was doing it for free.
Yeah, we just showed up. We just wanted to help our friends.
Yeah. When I did my feature film, Married and Loving It, the actors got paid side wages, but the crew, they did it because they're my friend, because they're my filmmaking friends. But I'd love to do it where it's something where when we show up for our time is rewarded with also money.
Yeah.
You have mouths to feed, I have mouths to feed, but at the same time, we do it for the love of it. But it'd be nice to get paid for your talent.
Absolutely.
Right?
We all start somewhere.
Yeah. So my hope is that we can raise money through New Ogden Cinema to start doing productions and art.
Yeah.
But also pay ourselves for that, so that we're rewarded for our talents.
I want to touch on that for you real quick and chime in. It's important what you just said as far as your friends just showed up for you because they're your friends. But really it's you guys created a space that's hosting a space for people to also be creative. Like you mentioned, you guys take turns being director or actor or writing each other in screenplay or costume design, location scouts, and you're kind of just expanding. And since I've been working with you on a couple projects the last 2 years, it's kind of I've really seen our network is growing because every new person that comes in and shows up, they're also bringing more resources and knowledge. And then it's we're growing as one collective hive mind. And it's what do you guys want to do? And I remember it was your wife, and she asked me when I ran into your Brofiki.
Yeah.
And she's like, what are you working on? What can we help you with? And I'm like, what? Nobody asks me that, but your team does. And that's what's so interesting, and that's why I think it's so important for New Ogden Cinema to get more light on it, is you guys offer that space that everyone has always looked for their whole life, that they didn't get at home, that they didn't get from their parents or their grandparents. It's kind of you need to go to school, you need to study this one thing and go get a job, and this is how much money you're going to make, and what you can do with that money is this, right? That is the old paradigm that we've been in. It's a paradox now, because now we're looking at it, we're hold on, COVID showed me that I can work just as much and just as hard from home than I would going into an office every day that added an extra 3 hours out of my life. And I don't need to take an hour lunch break when I can eat in 10 minutes while I'm still working and getting my work done between that. And hold on. So the paradox is, you mean to tell me I can create something and I don't need these resources up front? But when you do have resources like that, whether it's money, time, spaces, or people, what can you do with it? And you're gosh, how can I help you do what you want to do if you help me do what I'm doing right now? and then later on I can help you do what you want to do at a different location. That is the bread and butter right there to me. But that's like the jelly on the bread and butter. You know what I mean? So you've got this thing where it's so fascinating.
I think, in my opinion, if somebody's really addicted to film, it's the same. Like David Grohl talks about, like just playing jazz. He just want to jam. Just want to jam with like AC/DC. He doesn't care about being the lead singer. He just wants to jam.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, when we went to Helper, we met a few other filmmakers, films that I've enjoyed of theirs, and I'm like, I'll be a PA, dude. Like, I just want to
help. I want to learn.
I just want to, because again, what can I learn from you guys? Because if I stay in my own bubble and I just make it the way I do it, what if I'm fucking it up completely and then somebody else has like, oh yeah, well this is the process that we use. And it's like,
and you're like, whoa!
I would never know that had I just stayed in my kind of my stupid lane.
I agree with that so much.
Everything. And what I also found was there were some people, like this film schools, like this when I first showed up in Ogden. There were some people who like, it was almost like, they're so competitive, and it's like there's no reason for us to be competing necessarily against you. I mean, I know that we go to the same film festival and we're competing there, but in all reality, like, shouldn't I? If you made a good movie, shouldn't I just love your movie, and because it's good?
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't you be hoping the same for me? In that sense, that I made a good movie as well. Like if you made a good movie, you made a good movie, man. Like it rocks. Like it's almost like a joke that's not even like you ever heard a joke that's not it's not ideologically something you believe in. It's not even or like politically what you believe in, but it's a funny joke though.
Yeah.
And so it's like, ooh, it's funny.
Yeah.
And so there's so many times where I'll meet filmmakers, and whereas they make a film that I think is really good, I'm like, fuck, you guys make a good movie. I'm kind of jealous, but you guys make good. And there's other people who like you made a good movie, fuck yourself. And they're like really upset about it. It's like, dude, we should be working together. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
Like,
it's so funny you say that.
We can help each other. This is dumb. Like, and so that's what I initially envisioned the audience to be being, and the people who were involved with creating it as well, like Jason White and Matt Johnson, a late friend Jason Cosley. That was kind of our vision when we started it. Eventually, there was a moment where Brandy, my wife, like she was the person who was looking for a film group, to join, and she found us, but because of our openness, because like you want to do, because some people want to do films that fit also into their ideology. Maybe they don't want to make cop films. Maybe they want to make movies that are
set dramas for the holiday channels.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure. Like you should be able to speak that vision. And there's been so many friends, like Madison Easley, who's our cinematographer on Frank Cock. Also, I met her through Neon Cinema, just because she's a filmmaker looking for a film group, and it comes in. And there's been short films that we made that she wrote directed. And it's just that collaborative space that we can kind of work in. I never once in a while somebody makes a film. Jason White made a feature film, but I didn't sit there and he might like mine, and I'm kind of like, mine's okay, but I watched it, like, fuck, dude, like, that's good. But he's like going, mine's okay. And that's the okay. That's exactly where it needs to be. Where it's like I love your song for your song, you love my song for my song, but we'll hate each other's song. Kind of thing. You know, our own one. And I don't know. I don't know really what else to say. I'm kind of
let's pause.
Be like an employee. So.
No, you're doing great. This is great.